Buckle up, because we're merging back into traffic on Radio Nemo's Nemo Nation.
Please let Dave know I enjoyed it as well. That's a letter with regards from John Maley, senior sales executive and the host of Stay in Your Lane podcast. He's a senior sales exec over at Triple T Transport. We enjoy John's content as well. He always asked, do I provide value? And the answer, of course, is yes. Big thanks to all of our guests this morning for providing value. We are now in the post-trip part of the show, the final hour of Nemo Nation. I want to send everybody over to our website, radionemo.com. You can get a sense of who's coming up tomorrow. Really fun show, as well as Lindsay and I are going to take you down the road in Road Gang Radio, along with Trucking Tributes, which is content provided by our friends at Reeds Across America. Susan Patton will be checking in once again with one of the many men and women who keep the mission moving forward. Kevin Lindsay will be here before then for one of the other long-running segments, a brainchild of Dave Nemo, Maintenance Matters. Highway to Health, by the way, is going to be an in-depth discussion, as Dave said, important stuff. Troy Duell, health educator and founder of Centurion Health, is going to be talking about prostate health. I want you guys to go to Centurion Health. You can find them on Facebook at the Centurion Way. Jim Hinckley will be joining us to talk about Route 66. And then Neil Fisher has got a great segment on Christmas movie trivia. Can't wait to dig into that as well. All of it part of Road Gang Radio, which will conclude, as it always does, with another edition of Lindsay Lawler's Country and Western Music News, immediately to be followed up by our good friends Ashley and Scott, who you got a chance to hear from today. Well, Scott, the soul man with the soul plan. He's a soul man. And Ashley as well, who enjoys the fact that she gets to breathe a little more these days. And all of that is Trucking with Oida tomorrow at 11. And don't forget on Thursdays and Fridays as well. And in between all of that, this Wednesday, another edition of We Should Write. Right. But we still got one more guest to talk to here, by the way. Right. And, of course, Dave, if you would be so kind as to do the honors, because we're going through whiplash from the deep-fried boil that is Louisiana, well, to the, roads that might need a little bit of assistance from you. Go on.
Well, good morning from below sea level, Erica Denney. We were talking about you can't get much further apart from Denver to New Orleans because we're below sea level and you way up a mile high. Erica, you guys know Erica by now. She's the freight planner, freight mobility and safety branch at Colorado Department of Transportation. Erica, we met, I guess it was Nashville, wasn't it, at the convention center a few years ago?
Yes, sir. That's been a number of years at this point, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, I know. Once you get past 2 or 3, it's just a murky history for me, that's for sure. And always have a lot of important stuff to talk about. And you also have been kind enough and generous enough to kind of preview some things that you guys have in the works. And you also have are so open to ask our listeners to give some feedback on what's going on out there in Colorado in terms of not just winter driving, but driving through the mountains and all of the things that go with that we just don't see around here. The only hill in the city of New Orleans, Louisiana, was built during the Depression by the WPA, the Works Progress Administration. It was one of those government projects where they had people, just build bridges and walkways and monuments. And the mayor of New Orleans said, the children of New Orleans need to know what a hill looks like. So they built Monkey Hill in Audubon Park. It's part of the zoo now. So anyhow. So there we have it. We have some big ticket items here to talk about, and we're going to talk about the new video series Know Before You Haul, but a major part of the country is under a major storm right now, and we have the must carry and chain laws. Of course, we talked about that back in September, and here we are at the end of the year already. Kind of give us an update on the must carry versus chain laws. There is kind of a little caveat there, I guess you might say.
Yeah, that's right. And it's something that we're constantly trying to make sure that there's a clear defining line between the two, because they can quickly become muddled. We in Colorado have been a little bit behind on the snowpack this year so far, but just like so much of the country this past few days, all of a sudden we're seeing more of the white stuff. I know the skiers are getting excited because they've been very anxiously awaiting the ability to get out there and hit the slopes. But, the must carry law versus the chain law. Must carry for commercial motor vehicles means that you have to have chains or alternative traction devices as approved by the state on your truck starting September 1 all the way through May 31. Now, in years like this year where we didn't really see much sizable snow until within the last week, starting September 1 may seem a bit excessive. It can be in the 90s. However, we also have had years where September 1, we're already blizzarding up in the high country. It is the Colorado Rockies, and they are doing their own thing. Mother Nature keeps us on our toes. So the must carry means you have to have that traction equipment on your vehicle going through not only the I-70 corridor anymore, but pretty much most every major highway through the Mountain West. So I-25 does not necessarily apply. However, where chain law comes into effect is when it's actually actively snowing and actively putting chain law into effect, in that you need to put those alternative traction devices on your tires. So you've got the must carry where you have to have them on your equipment, and then you have the chain law where you have to put them on. So at all points is the must carry in effect from September 1 to May 31, but chain law is only in effect when there's active snow going on any of these corridors.
So if you don't follow the first law, you cannot follow the second law.
That is correct.
And so you're kind of putting yourself in double indemnity there in a sense? What happens there? And the other question I had about chains too is, do you know if there's a percentage of drivers who get dinged for not having chains, but they've got chains on the truck and they just didn't put them on?
I don't know the percentages of that offhand. So our partners over at the Colorado State Patrol, they are the authority who can actually go out.
Yeah, that's right. I'm kind of
folks.
Yeah, I'm combining you guys a little bit too much there.
All us states are different, which makes it that much more confusing. Who has authority over what, right?
Yeah.
We rely heavily on them. However, you have a $100 fine plus some surcharges for not carrying during that September 1 through May 31. But if you don't chain up, you have a $500 fine plus surcharge. And then if you actually cause a road closure, you're looking at over $1,000. So it goes up pretty significantly. The more, at risk you're putting everybody around you and the ability to continue to have commerce move throughout the corridor. So, I personally don't like having to pay out $1,000 for anything, even if it's some fun Christmas gift that I've been dreaming about, no less a fine for having an oops situation. So it's frustrating for a lot of folks. I know I grew up in the industry, and having those chains on the trucks for so much of the year going through the mountains was sometimes frustrating when you knew it was going to be 95 degrees, but it's worth it because that temperature swing and that weather change can happen in an instant.
Indeed. Getting back to the fact that saying, well, September 1st may be a little much, but you never know. It's sort of like our hurricane season here. Hurricane season ended today. Today is the first day of no hurricane season here in the world. So yeah, they kind of stretch them out as much as they need to in that regard. The other question I had about the chains, and we're going to cover everything here. We have some time. The chains is there are certain styles and certain products that are acceptable and some that are not. Are there chains that are, say, acceptable in other states that are not acceptable in Colorado? Is there like a short list of even by brand name or anything? So I know that, well, I've got, good stuff here for Colorado.
Sure. I'm not sure about specific brands. I think most tire chains are tire chains. If they're made the size of a commercial motor vehicle wheel, you should be set. Where it can get a little bit tricky, so we have auto socks are approved.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
For those who have heard about auto socks, it's more of a cloth-like material that's lightweight, pretty easy to get on. The challenge is that they do unfortunately wear down very quickly if you do end up driving on just wet pavement for any period of time. So it's a bit of a finesse, and it takes a little bit more strategy. And unfortunately, sometimes chain law is still up where there might be patches of uncovered asphalt, which can cause issues with the auto socks. But overall, I know that drivers who have figured out how to best utilize them love them. And then the other kind of question mark that a lot of people reach out to us about are the tire cables. So you are allowed to have tire cables of 0.415 diameters or greater, but you need to have 2 tire cables and 2 tire chains. It cannot be all cables. It has to be half and half. So, that's a bit of a point of confusion for folks. So hopefully that at least somewhat clarifies, and you're looking at straight trucks, single drive axle, tandem drive axle, auto transporters, all of these folks need chains, but also buses must have 2 tire chains. And if you're a hot shot trucking, if you're, a pickup truck hauling a load of commerce on your trailer, you also need to be prepared to have those chains at the ready.
Okay. That's a great point, because I think a lot of folks, especially folks who may not be in the trucking industry, may think of Class 8 tractor trailers only, but you're talking about all the way down to a pickup truck.
Yeah, I mean, if you meet weight requirements of being technically a commercial motor vehicle, you are still required to have those tire chains. So think about if you've got a DOT number on the side of your truck that you could be pulled into a port anyway, you've got to be prepared to have those chains. And that's something that the State Patrol, as well as our ports of entry folks, have been working really hard at trying to educate on the last 2 or so years, because we've seen so much more hotshot trucking out there, which is fantastic that there's different ways of movement of goods. But having that education point, because like you said, you think of an 18-wheeler, you don't necessarily think of all the other perspectives of what trucking can be. So just to be prepared, and the ways that the State Patrol and ports of entry have been trying to work to push out education is actually on maybe sunny days, and they're doing chain blitzes where they go out and they're just checking to make sure folks have what they need to have so that they can have the conversations, if not, help educate. And then when the snow hits, everybody in theory is hopefully prepared, and therefore everybody can get home safely that evening.
Well, another little marker in terms of how time does fly, when you and I first met and you first came on the radio show many moons ago, it was the introduction of some new videos coming out called the Mountain Rules videos. And they've been up and running, really a successful run. What are some of the responses that you guys have been getting about those videos?
We've had some pretty fantastic feedback. I mean, we worked with the industry, with long-term drivers who have been driving a truck through the mountains for 30 plus years when we first put this together. They're the ones that actually came up with the creative, the Mountain Rules slogan, which makes sense. I mean, the mountains do rule, and you need to follow their rules to get through them safely,
yep.
Right? So,
makes all the sense in the world to me.
It's catchy and it's worked really well. And, we've had quite a bit of positive feedback. The only challenging part is that they are a bit long. They're, between 8 and 10 minutes. And in today's TikTok society of 45 seconds to a minute and a half, you may not keep as much attention. So we've been trying to take snippets and different subsections of these videos to try and make it more of that quick, digestible, quick hit, slide through, on whatever social media outlet you may be using. But we've got different topics. One is kind of a general over the mountains of Colorado, I-70 in particular, the different passes you're up against, the challenges, the fact that you have runaway truck ramps and chain stations, all these things that maybe other states don't have, and maybe if you haven't been through the mountains, you haven't seen before. The big one that we push this time of year, of course, is the winter driving. And it just gives you tips right? We're not out there trying to tell you how to drive. We're the government. That's not our place. You guys are the professionals on the road. But it's, hey, if it's snowy, be prepared for this. If you want to check the weather before you take off at the end of your pre-trip, that's probably a good idea. If there's any of the white stuff on the road, be prepared for chain law to be in effect, and be prepared to find a safe place to pull over and put them on. If you've never put them on, we give a quick high level of how to put chains on your truck. And we have a gentleman who was an American road team captain working for ABF Freight, who has been a 30-year truck driver in Colorado. His name is Nate. He's the man. He's the star of the show. He's the one really talking. We want to try and convey that we want it to be friendly for drivers. We're not shaming. We're not trying to push anything. It's just the basics. And so we've got him, and then we've got our chief of the State Patrol, Colonel Matthew Packard, also, who jumps in basically to say, look, if you use a runaway truck ramp, you're not going to be cited. You may have to pay a tow bill to get out, but we're not going to cite you because you did the right thing instead of, continuing on and potentially causing a crash. So we try and make it so that, it's something that people can trust and run with. So, we've got winter driving, we've got summer driving, and hot breaks, which is a whole nother topic of challenge at pretty much all points in time, but especially in the summer. We have one talking about speeding as the Glenwood Canyon area. While it's beautiful, we have a lot of speeding issues through that corridor. Construction zone safety, and just kind of that high level overview. So nothing earth shattering, nothing that most probably don't already know, but we like to think it can be a great refreshing tool.
Exactly. And I've made this point, on again, off again through the years. People who teach for a living go to continuing education sessions and seminars and things like that. People who do medicine, they're constantly learning and going to classes. We learn here. I learn literally stuff. So I don't know why drivers don't want to learn. So when you get behind the wheel of a vehicle, there's a human factor that says, I know everything there is to know. You can't tell me anything.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Put them anywhere else and they don't know nothing. But put us behind the wheel and we know everything. And I'm not talking about truck drivers. I'm talking about people. We are all the same in that regard, I guess.
Yep.
So the Mountain Rules videos are out there. They've been well used. They've been documented, and they are. How many lives have they saved? You'll never really know, but you'll know it's a number. That's for sure. Got a new video series coming up called "Know Before You Haul." What was the impetus behind that? Was it sort of like the son of Mountain Rules?
To a degree, yeah. So he has recently retired, but Captain John Hahn, our mix-up captain here in Colorado, he was most recently the outgoing president of CVSA as well. He and I,
great guy,
fantastic man. He will be missed in our line of work, that is for sure. But he and I were kind of spitballing one day when we were wrapping up a few of these other Mountain Rules videos, thinking, what can we do next? What's still out there? We want to continue the momentum we have going. We don't want it just to end. We think that there's always going to be other opportunities to continue this. And what is another angle or lens, so to say, that we can look at it from? And that's when, and all credit to him, he said, what if we do an overview of these challenging mountain passes, and not just on I-70, but some of the, off the beaten path, the Wolf Creek Pass, which unfortunately just took another life of a truck driver a few weeks ago who lost control and went over the edge of the cliff. How do we talk about Wolf Creek? How do we talk about Red Mountain, who maybe folks have never even heard of? You've got Hoosier, Monarch. There's a lot more than just I-70.
Well, when I hear the name Wolf Creek Pass, and a lot of our listeners, especially some of the older guys, they are immediately going to think of C.W. McCall's song, Wolf Creek Pass, and the wild and woolly, funny. It was a comical song. But at the same time, yikes, people really do get killed there. And the fun and games kind of just goes right out the window immediately. But it's that juxtaposition, it's really unnerving,
It very much is. And, whether you're on a motorcycle, in a four-wheel vehicle, or 18-wheeler, it doesn't matter. It is it is hairy. And so looking at things like that, that's when Captain Hahn came up with the idea, of doing an overview. So what we are actively out shooting and trying to create, working with not only, those that have driven the corridor over and over, but in addition to our maintenance guys who work for CDOT, who are out on the road trying to help when things go wrong every single day. We've been working with them to give back to the TikTok length, right? I joke, but that minute and a half length video of an overview of these passes. And what we're doing is we're looking at it and saying, hey, if you're going from, east to west, you're going to start at mile point X. And then as soon as you get to this mile point, be prepared for this hairpin turn. As soon as you get to Y, there's going to be a chain station on the right-hand side. Be prepared if chain law is in effect. Put your chains on here safely. You continue on, and it'll talk about if there's a runaway truck ramp on that corridor. And it'll also go into details such as, hey, if it's winter, this is always shaded because of the trees. Be prepared, it will be icy, no matter what. So we're trying to give those quick hits, super quick to digest. But if you've never been on one of these and you're going in blind, so to say, we're hopeful that it can be a resource to go and look and go, all right, I know that I've got these 3 hairpin turns that I really have to be cautious and know that, as my trailer is tailing along, I need to be extra cautious to keep it out of the mud. And I need to know that if I do lose my brakes, there is a runaway truck ramp, I can be prepared, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got 11 different passes that we are doing. And we're hoping to have all of these videos wrapped up sometime in the spring where we can start really pushing them out for folks to be able to check them out. And these are all things that we'll push on our social media, but anybody who's interested and thinks it of value, we are happy to send it to them. You can put it on your social media, put it in your safety training videos, put it, anywhere and everywhere that you deem valuable. We want this. It's a free resource for everybody. We just want to be able to have it so that we have this point 2 check to help, again, we want everybody to get where they're going safely. Sort
of like having the answer sheet before you take the test.
Exactly.
Fantastic. I hate to ask this question. Do we have a date, grand opening date?
No, we have a few of them that are in the finals of the editing. So we might send a few teasers of a few of them. But unfortunately, with the weather coming in and a few of these passes being in Southwest Colorado where it can be pretty hairy, I don't want to promise a date only because it's going to be weather dependent to get our film crews.
That's funny. Yeah. We can't make the film because we can't go out there to make the film because what we're talking about in the film is happening right now. Yeah, gotcha. One more exceedingly important thing here, and it is on everybody's list. Truck parking. It's on ATRI's list every year. It's on the driver list, the owner-operator list. And ATRI does state-by-state lists, too, and they're on every state's list at one point or another. You got some plans in the works for some temporary emergency truck parking. Kind of give us a little bit on that.
Sure. It's been an initiative we have talked about for a number of years now, and we've finally gotten our first official partner who's willing to step up and help us experiment with it. And when we do have these situations, this is where we want feedback from guys and gals on the road. But we have successfully made a partnership with the Denver Broncos. So cheers to them and congrats on the win, boys, last night. And they are willing to open up one of their parking lots for emergency situations. So when I say emergency, I'm talking bomb cyclone. The world is under snow, we can't dig out, and it's getting worse and worse. The goal is for when the interstates are closed and we're trying to get our plows through to open up the roadway by clearing it all off. Unfortunately, there's trucks that get stuck when the road closes and there's nowhere to go. You can't pull off and just go into a neighborhood and hang out. You are stuck on the road. And we look at that as incredibly shameful and almost embarrassing because those are human beings in the cab of the truck and they're treated, we kind of say, worse than prisoners because we're basically telling them, hey, you can't move. You're stuck in the snow. You got to stay in your truck. Don't freeze. Hope you have enough diesel. And that's just not okay. And so we're trying to find alternative ways, and this emergency truck parking network that we're, again, baby steps, very first beginnings. You know, if the roadway closes down, we're hopeful to be able to funnel some of the drivers into these parking lots where we'll have a few staff helping to manage for getting everybody into a parking spot safely. We will provide facilities on site. You know, perfect scenario, maybe we'll even get a food truck or two in there, but until we can have a few case studies of making it happen, that might be a challenge. But we want to be able to get people to a safer place instead of sitting on the road. Then get trucks off the road, it opens up more space, our plows can get through easier. In theory, the roadway should open up faster. So, you know, again, the Broncos are the first ones to be willing to help us out. So we're working through the legalities of, you know, if and what's, et cetera, way above my pay grade. But once we get that situated, when we have our first major event where there's big closures, we fully intend to have this operational. But again, it's short term. This is not something that then you park here once during the storm and you can come back and park there every single time. It's unfortunately just for those emergencies. And we're looking for alternative locations, such as maybe the Denver Coliseum, which is right off of I-70, kind of in the heart of Denver, that could perhaps be an alternative, you know, additional location for more drivers, because we fear that these are going to fill up pretty darn quick. You close down the interstate and there's a lot of trucks out there trying to move commerce. And so, you know, having a few options would be wonderful. But one step at a time, we've got to work out some kinks and prove the point that this is necessary, whilst always trying to find additional truck parking capacity for, you know, more permanency. But that's a whole nother can of worms and challenges that we're up against on that one.
Planning for something you hope you never have to use, and that's it's the irony is there.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Erica. Jimmy Mack here, dropping back in, having just enjoyed thoroughly this great conversation. Hope you have a great December. Hope we get to talk to you before it's all over with. If not, just be as safe as all the people you're encouraging to be safe as well. Thank you so much.